Ladies and gentlemen, the Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, Dr. the Honorable Hubert A. Minnis. You may be seated. Good morning. We are streaming live at My Alive Facebook page, day one of the first Grand Bahama Technology Summit under the theme, Making Grand Bahama the Gateway to Innovation and Technology. The two-day conference is being brought to you under the direction of the Grand Bahama Port Authority and also the Office of the Prime Minister. The Port Authority serves as title sponsor and, of course, Alive as the innovation sponsor. We are extremely pleased to have a number of people in our audience this morning, particularly our presenters over the next 2 days, who represent the best minds in technology and innovation, representing leading technology companies in the Bahamas and the United States. With us today, Dr. the Honorable Hubert Alexander Minnis, Prime Minister, Ministers of the Government, Senator the Honorable James Kwesi Thompson, Minister of State for Grand Bahama, the Honorable Frankie Campbell, Minister of Transport and Local Government, the Honorable Darren Henfield, Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Honorable Romy Ferreira, Minister of the Environment and Housing, Parliamentary Secretaries, Pakeisha Parker Edgecombe, Office of the Prime Minister, Iram Lewis, Ministry of Public Works, Travis Robinson, Ministry of Tourism and Aviation, Vaughn Miller, Ministry of Social Service and Urban Development, Senator the Honorable Jasmine Darius, Members of Parliament, Reuben Ramming, Pinewood Constituency, New Providence, and Frederick McAlpine will join us tomorrow as moderator from the Pine Ridge constituency. Permanent Secretaries, Jack Thompson, Office of the Prime Minister, Nassau, Harcourt Brown, Office of the Prime Minister, Freeport, Emmerich Seymour, Deputy Commissioner of Police and other senior officers, Island Administrators, Kenneth Flowers, Superintendent, Bahamas Customs, Kenneth Ferguson, Acting Assistant Director, Bahamas Immigration, other senior government officials, Grand Bahama Port Authority, Sarah St. George, Chairman and other executives and managers, Alive, Damian Blackburn, CEO and other executives and managers, President and members of the Grand Bahama Chamber of Commerce, other members of the Grand Bahama corporate community, senior education officers, principals and students, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen. Now that we know every name in the room just about, this is a good time as any to mention Alive, our innovation sponsor. Now, I don't need everybody to run into the foyer, but your business cards need to be deposited with them if you intend to win any of the 2 prizes that will be raffled this afternoon and early this morning. You'll have an opportunity to win an iPhone 8 and a Wi-Fi device. At a convenient time, just drop your business cards to the Alive booth. Now, to start our program, Althea Cooper, a staff member of the Office of the Prime Minister, will now come and sing the national anthem. She will be followed by the prayer led by Pastor Robert Lockhart, Vice President of the Grand Bahama Christian Council. Mrs. Cooper and Pastor Lockhart.
Lift up your head to the rising sun, Bahama land. March on to glory, your bright banners waving high. See how the world marks the manner of your bearing, pledge to excel through love and unity, pressing onward, march together to a common loftier goal, steady sunward, though the weather hide the wide and treacherous shore. Lift up your head to the rising sun, Bahama land, till the road you trod lead unto your goal. March on, Bahama land. Thank you.
Let us pray. Father God, who is in heaven, we hallowed your name. We invite your presence in this place today at this Grand Bahama Technology Summit on this 10th of November 2017. We pray your blessings upon all of the deliberations that are about to take place today. And we pray that the goals and ambitions of this summit would be accomplished. We pray your blessings upon the island of Grand Bahama, upon all of those who lead this process. And we ask, Father, in the name of Jesus Christ, that, Lord, that we will have your presence, your wisdom, your guidance, your understanding amongst us today. That all the information that is to be shared in the next 2 days, Lord, that they would be able to be used, Father, to advance the cause, oh God, and Heavenly Father, and the purpose for this summit, Father. We pray for all the presenters, that they would be clear, and Father, and for those that would be listening, that they will comprehend and understand. And so, Father, we commit this summit to you. We commit all of those, oh Father, that's involved in making it happen. And we pray your blessings, we pray your grace, and oh God, in your divine guidance. And we commit this summit to you in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. And everyone say, amen.
Thank you, Mrs. Cooper and Pastor Lockhart. You may be seated. I think this is a good time as any to introduce me. I'm your moderator, Catherine Smith, for this session today. I am a senator, and I currently serve as president of the Senate of the Bahamas. Organizing and planning conferences of this magnitude is not always easy, and the financial impact is even greater. Coming now to bring the opening remarks is Mr. Ian Roll, president of the Grand Bahama Port Authority, representing our title sponsor. Mr. Roll.
Give me 1 second.
You need 1 second?
Yes, please.
All the persons coming into room, I think at this point, whoever is supposed to be here is here, so let's just take a seat anywhere that's open.
The clicker, yes.
Several seats over to the left of the room as well. All those persons standing, if you could please take a seat.
How you doing?
This is a technology conference.
This is. Let me see if the technology works. Could someone turn the screen on?
Ian, who should we blame for this?
I wouldn't blame anyone for this. I wouldn't
Okay.
do that. I wouldn't
Okay.
do that to,
You're gonna
to my
take
good
full
friends.
responsibility.
I'll take full responsibility.
Okay. Anyway, technology has a tendency to disappoint us sometimes, so we'll get it together quickly.
The front. Okay. Point it which way direction. Push up. Well, on, let's see if it's moving. All right. Finally. With technology, you always need a backup plan, a redundancy plan. That's the first lesson you learn in technology. Well, I hope you don't mind. I'm freeing myself from the podium this morning. I know that protocol has already been established, but I would like to acknowledge the presence of our Prime Minister, the Right Honorable Hubert Minnis. And of course, my friend, the Honorable Kwesi Thompson, Minister of State for Grand Bahama. All members of Parliament who are here now, my Grand Bahama Port Authority family, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I am very excited to be here this morning as we discuss one of my favorite topics, and that's technology and innovation. The Grand Bahama Port Authority and the government of the Bahamas feel that the use of technology is going to be a major factor in the future development of Freeport. In fact, the Grand Bahama Port Authority, in its vision plan, states that we will use technology to make every aspect of our operation more efficient. Today, I would like to share with you various initiatives that the Port Authority is working on or have worked on in the past few years. The ICT industry. Back in 2012, we thought that there's great opportunity here in this particular industry. And we engaged the services of a consultant to help us understand the contact center operation. And once that study was done, it proved that having a contact center industry here in Freeport was feasible. So in 2014, the very first standalone outsourcing operation called ITEL BPO was established. And to date, we have about 100 Bahamians now working for that operation. In 2016, we partnered with the same organization to launch our Contact Center Educational Initiative Program. And I am pleased to say today that over 1,000 students are now certified in Freeport as a result of our efforts. Smart city initiatives. When you think of smart city, you normally think of a city that uses technology to optimize efficiencies in regards to the use of assets, resources, and also the engagement with its citizens. We intend to focus, or have been focusing, on 5 major areas: mobility, public safety, citizen engagement, environment and water, and the last one, administration. Under the mobility umbrella, the focus was to how do we improve the movement of people within the city. So the Port Authority provided our street data, our land plot data, and also our addressing system data to this company called HERE, which is owned by 3 of the largest European car manufacturers. And I'm pleased to say that Freeport is the first place in the Bahamas where you can actually pick up a device and navigate using an address system to navigate between points of interest in the city. Public safety. And this refers to creating a safer environment for our citizens of Freeport. We have deployed over 80 cameras in the downtown area that are monitored 24/7. And over the next 12 months, we intend to deploy a number of different cameras throughout public areas in the city. Environment and water. The focus here is to monitor and protect our environment and natural resources. Again, this is a first. We have deployed in Freeport 500 smart meters, and by the end of next year, 11,000 meters will be deployed throughout the city of Freeport, where residents will be able to use an app to see actual real-time consumption from their residents. Citizen engagement, and this refers to improving communication levels between us and the general public. One of the first things we did, the Grand Bahama Port Authority launched an initiative called My Grand Bahama. And we carried out customer service training throughout the island of Grand Bahama. So now that the training is done, how do we measure the feedback from the training? So we created an app that will allow persons to give feedback at various places about their experiences. And this application will be deployed by the end of December. Again, another first. The other item on the screen, it's called Kasengo. Kasengo is a platform that allows us to receive information from the public from 4 different sources. From email source, and if you're going to send us an email, you can use info@gbpa.com, and that information comes right into this central database called Kasengo. And you can also use Facebook Messenger to send information or queries to the port group. And this last one, which is exciting, everybody uses WhatsApp, right? Yeah. And WhatsApp, as of Monday, you will be able to send your queries to the Grand Bahama Port Authority using WhatsApp. And the telephone number is 824-4444. Let me repeat, 824-4444. And as of Monday, you will get a response within 24 hours. No pressure on Nicole. Again, a first. This next application is called the Freeport Report. And this one is also dear to my heart. This allows the citizens to engage more with the Grand Bahama Port Authority. You can simply use your smart device, take a photo of down street signs, potholes, illegal dumping, and all that information will go back to a central place in our city services desk, and those matters will then be addressed. Again, a first. Virtual town hall meetings. We actually had our first virtual town hall meeting right before Hurricane Irma, and it proved to be such a success that starting December of this year, we will start monthly virtual town hall meetings. Again, a first. Administration. This refers to making it easier for licensees and the citizens of Freeport to conduct their business affairs. Go back one. Go back one, excuse me. I know everybody will love this one. We're about to launch a payment platform that would allow you to pay your bills 24/7. Can I? All right. Give it up. And for those who want to take a ride in their cars and go to the Grand Bahama Port Authority at any hour, you can now use our ATM kiosk 24/7. Now, what I'm about to show you is actually one of the most favorite, I think, initiatives that we're working on. And it's a one-stop shop initiative for our local investors in Freeport. Again, for the very first time, by the second quarter of 2018, we will launch this virtual portal where local investors are able to come to this one place, this virtual environment, where they can start a business, request their permits, various different types of permits, report violations, actually request certificates of good standing, and also request your bond letters, all from this very one place. Again, a first. Now, what would be even more awesome is the same platform that we're going to use for our local investors to use it for everyone to create a true one-stop shop. Wouldn't it be marvelous if all of our investors are able to submit the required information into this one portal, one time? And then, once the information enters this portal, the information is filtered and distributed to the various agencies and in a timed response manner from the various industries or entities, customs, immigration, central bank. The information then comes back into the portal, and the licensee or the investor, without knowing what goes on behind the scenes, is able to get their approved business license from the Port Authority and various other governmental approvals. Of course, this would need the assistance of my dear friend, Minister Crazy Thompson, to make this happen. But we are talking about this initiative now. And my final words to you, by Mr. Robert Persig: if you run from technology, it will surely chase you. I encourage each and every one of you to embrace technology as we work together to make the lives of people in Freeport and the Bahamas a better place. Thank you, and God bless you all. I hope you're better.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ian. I took note of some former parliamentarians in the House, Ambassadors Maurice Moore and Cornelius Smith, David Thompson. Anybody else that I see as I move about, I will certainly acknowledge you, but thank you guys for coming out this morning as well. And thank you again, Ian. Ian is one of those young Bahamians in a very significant position in Grand Bahama. And we're very proud of our young Bahamians who are taking leadership positions throughout the community. Congratulations, Ian. In his effort to bring other industries that could diversify the Grand Bahama economy, and his belief that this community can be a Silicon Valley, our next speaker, along with his team at the Office of the Prime Minister, worked tirelessly to bring this conference to Grand Bahama. Coming now to bring welcome remarks is Senator the Honorable Kwesi Thompson, Minister of State for Grand Bahama, Office of the Prime Minister. Senator Thompson.
As protocol has already been established, let me just acknowledge the presence of Prime Minister Minis, to my cabinet colleagues, to the executives of the Grand Bahama Port Authority. And no, Ian, I'm not going to be having a wonderful presentation, and I'm not going to have a fancy mic, but I'm going to stand in front of the podium. But I want to say a pleasant good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I have the honor of welcoming you to this very first technology summit in Grand Bahama. Today we embark on a 2-day experience expected to change Grand Bahama forever. Someone once said, the changes call for innovation, and innovation leads to progress. So, May 10th, 2017, ushered in a wave of change in our country. And Grand Bahama remains high on our agenda. One of our stated manifesto commitments was to make Grand Bahama a technology hub similar to Silicon Valley. Now, I must confess that at the time, I didn't know much about what a technology hub was, and much less how to change Grand Bahama into one. However, I believed in our Prime Minister's vision for Grand Bahama. After all, it was Steve Jobs who said, innovation distinguishes between a leader and a follower. And our Prime Minister is truly a leader. But it didn't take me long to realize that the technology industry is the way forward for our country, and that Grand Bahama is ideally suited for its development. While our past success has been in industry, our future success must be in innovation and technology. Anyone in the business world will tell you that branding is important. We recognize the importance of tourism in Grand Bahama. But I believe that today is a new day for Grand Bahama. Today I believe that we rebrand Grand Bahama. Today we cease to become, or we cease to be, the capital for industry. But now Grand Bahama will be a place for industry and innovation. And I'm sure we are well on our way after seeing the presentation from Ian Roll this morning from the Port Authority. Ladies and gentlemen, so how do we get there? How does Grand Bahama become a technology hub? How do we let the world know that we are open for business? This is why we are here today. Our government must shape the right policy to provide the right incentives and remove all obstacles in order to nurture and grow this industry. And yes, we will make that one-stop shop for Freeport and for Grand Bahama. You know, I will also confess, the idea for the summit started as a small conference for industry stakeholders to shape policy. There was only, though, one problem. The more we talked about it, and the more we shared this idea, the more people believed in it, and the more they wanted to become involved in it. So today we have, and I want you to look around, we have over 450 persons who are registered for the Grand Bahama Technology Summit. Just take a look around. Coming as far as the US, Canada, and even as far as Africa. We joked that maybe we should get some people from Silicon Valley to come and talk to us here in Freeport. And maybe we should get some people from Google. And maybe we might even be able to get some people from Microsoft. We joked about it. Well, today, you will hear from Bahamians who live and work in Silicon Valley. You will hear from Google. You will hear from Microsoft, and you will hear from HP and others. Say what you will about the state of our island. The leaders and the giants in the technology world have not just come to the Bahamas, but they have come to Grand Bahama. Ladies and gentlemen, there is also a very important component in our summit. In addition to inviting tech companies to come to Grand Bahama, the government must also create opportunities for tech business entrepreneurs. I'm therefore pleased that later today, young Bahamians, entrepreneurs, will be making their tech business pitches to representatives from Google, from Microsoft, and from Silicon Valley tech experts during our Blue Marlin Challenge, where they will compete for a $10,000 business startup grant from the government. This is only just a start. Our grant program will also continue next month, and it will begin with our Micro and Small Business Economic Empowerment Initiative program. We also are pleased that our sponsors will be providing the winner of the Blue Marlin Challenge, courtesy of the Grand Bahama Port Authority, 1-year business license exemption. And Alive will also be providing them with a phone and also, I believe, a contract as well. And we also understand that Google will also be providing them with a computer. So who knows, after these pitches have been made, maybe Google or maybe Microsoft will partner with a Bahamian to make their business idea a reality in Grand Bahama. Ladies and gentlemen, this is just the beginning, though. It is a new beginning for Grand Bahama. So I welcome our domestic and international visitors and representatives from the leading international technology companies to experience all that Grand Bahama has to offer during your stay here. The quiet comforts and the superior infrastructure with all the amenities necessary to operate a successful business. And I make no apologies for this statement. If you are a technology company, an international technology company, we want you here in Grand Bahama. I love Nassau. I love the rest of the Bahamas. But if you are an international company in technology, Grand Bahama wants you here. I also say this. If you are a technology company in New Providence or any place else in the Bahamas, we also want your technology company here in Grand Bahama. Our island is a true gem, I believe that Grand Bahama is well on its way to becoming the next great technology hub. And I'm excited to celebrate this milestone. So, ladies and gentlemen, as I close, allow me to say how grateful I am to God, and that we all are privileged to live and work on an island like Grand Bahama. I acknowledge that we alone do not have all of the answers. But through God's direction and wisdom, we cannot fail. So today we live Jeremiah 29 and 11. For I know the plans that I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. May God continue to bless us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deacon Thompson. But you know, he is a Sunday school teacher and a deacon, and he always lets it come out right at the end. But let's give Kwesi a round of applause. Senator Thompson has worked very hard and is working very hard in the Ministry of Grand Bahama. So, parliamentary colleagues, you're going to hear from Miriam Lewis today. You're going to hear from Jasmine Darius, Senator. You're going to hear from the Mac Pack tomorrow. And all we're doing is selling Freeport, Grand Bahama. Our next speaker came to office as a reformist with a vision to make the Bahamas different and better. On May 10, 2017, he led his party to an historic victory with an overwhelming mandate to deliver a new Bahamas. A physician by profession and an accomplished businessman. Ladies and gentlemen, the Prime Minister of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, the Honorable Dr. Hubert A. Minnis.
Thank you very much. You may be seated. I listened very attentively to my parliamentary colleague, Kwesi Thompson. And I want to say, for all to hear, that I love Nassau. I also love Grand Bahama, and I love the Bahamas most of all. Now, whatever is good for Grand Bahama is great for the Bahamas. As I listened to the earlier speaker, I now realize that Freeport is en route to becoming the first smart city in the Bahamas. As protocol has already been established, I will adopt. However, I must recognize my parliamentary colleagues, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I am so happy to be with you for the official opening of the Grand Bahama Technology Summit. A new day is on the horizon for Grand Bahama. This island has endured many struggles, but today there is the promise of a new and exciting future for Grand Bahama. The government of the Bahamas has embarked on a mission to establish Grand Bahama as a world-renowned technology hub. Today, through the first ever Grand Bahama Technology Summit, we are starting on a path to realize this goal. The theme of the conference, Making Grand Bahama the Gateway to Innovation and Technology, could not be more fitting. Ladies and gentlemen, we are pleased to host to this distinguished gathering of some of the finest minds in technology. And indeed, your meetings in the next 2 days will be instrumental in the strategic planning process of promoting the information, communication, and technology industry. The island of Grand Bahama is uniquely suited to become an internationally recognized science, technology, and innovation hub. Just 68 miles off the east coast of the United States, Grand Bahama is conveniently located for international business. And if we were able to drive by car, it's less than an hour's drive. We possess modern and superior infrastructure, as well as a reliable electricity supply and high-speed internet. The Freeport container port boasts the deepest container terminal in the region. Our 24-hour-a-day facility serves as a major transshipment hub between the United States, Latin America, and Europe. The Bahamas is a stable democracy, committed to the rule of law, with one of the best banking systems in the region. This summit will also highlight Bahamians who are at the cutting edge of innovation and technology, including some in Silicon Valley. We will embrace their experience and expertise to develop this promising industry locally. Ladies and gentlemen, an important part of establishing this technology hub is the development of our human capacity through education and training. I am therefore pleased that the Grand Bahama campus of the University of the Bahamas is playing an active role in this summit. I am also pleased that there are many high school students present here today. We are encouraging students to explore careers in science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and information technology. Grand Bahama should be a place where Bahamians can confidently pursue careers in these fields and know that there is an avenue for their skills to be utilized. Grand Bahama is already becoming a manufacturing center for cutting-edge technology, as exemplified in the recent soft opening of the Carnival Corporation's Ocean Medallion project. Carnival has identified Grand Bahama as the ideal location for the manufacture of the Ocean Medallion concierge system. This interactive technology will change the cruise industry. Its development center in Grand Bahama will provide an avenue for Bahamian IT and electrical technicians to gain employment in their respective fields. And I congratulate those who were recently hired and are being trained in this technology. Ladies and gentlemen, Grand Bahama will now be the place where industry meets technology. In many ways, it is a new beginning. The government will closely follow your discussions and the recommendations following this summit. We must promote blockchain as a sub-industry within ICT to attract logistics and similar companies. Our jurisdiction will be promoted as a cybersecurity hub to operate in the Grand Bahama. I also wish to extend a special invitation to all international tech companies represented here to consider the Bahamas in general and Grand Bahama in particular for your ICT conventions, annual meetings, and corporate retreats. Legislation has recently been tabled in the Commercial Enterprise Bill, which will streamline business applications and adapt immigration policy to facilitate new technology businesses. So, ladies and gentlemen, Grand Bahama is certainly open for business and welcomes international business representatives, particularly those of Google, Microsoft, Hewlett-Packard, to discover what this island has to offer. I also want to encourage Bahamian professionals and aspiring entrepreneurs at home and abroad to establish your businesses here at home. And home means Grand Bahama, Nassau, Abaco. But preferably Grand Bahama. On behalf of the Bahamas government and the people of Grand Bahama, I am pleased to express our gratitude to all those who have made this summit a reality, particularly the Grand Bahama Office of the Prime Minister. I thank all the sponsors and partners of this conference for their confidence and recognition of the government's commitment to this new beginning for Grand Bahama and to the emergence of this island as a technology hub for the Bahamas. I thank you very much. May God continue to bless each and every one of you, and God bless the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister. I guess they're ahead of us now. Turn your attention to the screens as we present
differently.
Grand Bahama, the capital of industry and innovation.
It's getting better, evolving, creating, thinking. It is committing to your goals, choosing forward and never looking back. Innovators need a destination to make their ambitions a reality. That destination is not an endpoint. It's a place to plant your flag and stake your claim. A home for your future success. That home must be easy to reach, peaceful and free from disruptions. Affordable for both fledgling startups and world-class organizations. With first-class infrastructure, a stable government and attractive tax concessions, an exceptional quality of life, completely familiar, yet intriguing and captivating. That place exists, and it's right here on Grand Bahama. Just 67 miles off the coast of Florida, with more untapped internet capacity than most developed countries in the world. A place where you can enjoy the pleasures of a tropical life with the necessities you need to run a successful business.
Grand Bahama is known as the industrial capital of the Bahamas. Over the years, we have attracted multi-million-dollar investments that continue to play an important role in our economy today, such as the Freeport Container Port and the Grand Bahama Shipyard. But we are more than that. We are poised to become the next greatest technology hub of this region, and I dare say the world.
Our advancements in technology will determine whether or not we keep up with globalization. In fact, it's a must that we do. Grand Bahama is well on its way to making it happen. My government is ready to promote our island as a premier destination for innovation and technology. We are open for business. Grand Bahama Island, the region's newest technology hub, is just a click away.
Where will you plant your flag and stake your claim to the future? Your future is here. Welcome to Grand Bahama, the gateway to innovation and technology.
Again, thank you, Prime Minister, for your remarks. You so eloquently let us know that you're not getting in that fight between Grand Bahama and New Providence. That fight that exists in every aspect of life, sports, politics, everything. But we still sell in Grand Bahama today and tomorrow. Our next speaker is a solution architect for large public venues. I'll leave it for him to tell us what a solution architect is. However, he is a global expert in very high-density Wi-Fi deployments and indoor location-based services for sporting arenas and stadiums. He has unique experience in supporting the design and deployment of wireless service provider networks. He has over 18 years of wireless communication expertise. Ladies and gentlemen, from Hewlett-Packard, here to present Developing a Technology Hub, Mr. Michael Johnston.
Hello, everyone. Welcome today. Thank you. It's an honor and privilege to be up here in front of you. As stated, my name is Michael Johnston. I work for Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. I'm in the Aruba Networking Division, specializing in ultra-high-density Wi-Fi. What is a solution architect? That's a good place to start. They bring us problems that don't necessarily have answers. So we reach into the breadth of products that Hewlett-Packard has and try to develop those for you. What we're going to talk about today, both something I love and something I may not exactly love, is smart cities, Internet of Things. I want to start off specifically speaking to the investors in the room. This is a McKinsey report stating that by 2025, the smart city industry could reach up to $1.7 trillion. This is a significant investment that both HP and Aruba have invested in. Primary drivers, we heard in the opening remarks, a lot of the telemetry-related data for air, water monitoring, adaptive traffic management, these types of systems. What's critically important is understanding where, what types of business drivers are specifically important to all the stakeholders. When we're talking city, we're somewhere in the middle between services and government, where we're equally splitting the load of optimization and risk reduction. However, leaving stakeholders out of these conversations can break your IoT initiatives. So if we look over, for example, in retail, their most important is generating sales. So we need to make sure all these stakeholders come to these conversations. As an architect, the one thing I'm not going to talk to you today about very much is architecture. We think that that is where many organizations miss, is leading with the architecture. So what I'll discuss, what is the Internet of Things? This is the confession of the part I don't particularly care about. IoT has been around for a very long time. We're just now calling it Internet of Things. What are things? Things are, they generate data. Then we have to interconnect these. The network that we interconnect that to creates the context of that data. We'll break that out a little bit more, but traditionally, how is this organized on your traditional network? We have, on the left-hand side here, we have pools of data that are isolated. As we start to use big data engines to pull all this together into what we call data lakes, now, on the right-hand side of the column, we now create ourselves what we call a governance issue. We have this large amount of data, but is everybody entitled to that data? Does a contractor at the port necessarily need access to personal health records? So we have to administrate this very, very carefully as we proceed. Ooh, that went real fast. Okay, so most technology companies stand up here, talk about an architecture. There is no single architecture that can fit your needs. So what we try to do is a concept at HP that we call digital transformation. Start at the highest level with the executive leadership. What do we choose? What do we want to extract? What are our strategic goals that we're going to pull out of this IoT initiative? And then that flow of strategic goals needs to flow and feed and develop what our architecture is. Once we develop the architecture, then we can flow back up to make sure we are meeting all those business needs. IoT, as I stated, it's been around for quite a long time. It does not have a very good track record of success. And this is the reason. Traditionally, it's begun with an architecture. Somebody that has a great technology, and then we have to justify the implementation of that technology. So today, the way we're trying to change this, the way I'd like to position Grand Bahama in their technology revolution is to let's start at the strategic goals. Once we've accomplished that and identified our business objectives, in the green, the middle of this pyramid, we create these business moments. These business moments can be both positive and negative. If we do not execute properly, there will be a distaste for the program we're trying to implement. We won't get adoption to that. The users of the system won't attach to the system, and it quickly starts to unravel the intent of the network. But business moments are those moments in time where the people and the technology meet, and we create revolution, where we create change, we embrace change. So that's really where the focus of our IoT strategy is try to capture those business moments. And that is the exact convergence between the technical and then the executive leadership. So to help us understand what these are, we've created an IoT lifecycle. It asks several very simple questions. We'll start in the top half. Visibility, security. Visibility is network connectivity. Does every device that we're talking to need to be interconnected? Because connectivity drives up cost, drives up capital investment requirements. So we need to really understand what devices need to be connected. At the simplest level, IoT is interconnection of everything. But as we try to do this on a Grand Island basis, that may be cost prohibitive in many cases. Then, am I fully protected? Is anybody here fully protected? No. Well, if somebody were to volunteer, I've been authorized by the VP of Strategic Relationships to give you a year of psychological counseling. So, in today's modern enterprise, it doesn't matter what systems you implement, you're immediately vulnerable. I've heard recently up to 180 days from the time somebody attacks your network until the time you actually recognize that there's a threat. So that's where machine-to-machine AI learning, advanced security to detect horizontal movement through the network. The days of having a nice stateful firewall to protect our network, we need to do a lot more now. So then below that feeds into productivity and profitability. Often these are the business drivers that are feeding our initiatives. Profitability asks the question, am I fully innovating? If I stop innovating, then my technology becomes long in the tooth, and it becomes a cost center, no longer a profit center. So we need to continually keep this innovation cycle up. Productivity, oftentimes, is as profitable as true revenue itself. Are my employees, my users of the system, are they able to access this? In the sports and entertainment market that I work a lot into, what we define fan experience as is IT removing itself from the equation and allowing the fans complete access to use the back-of-house systems that have traditionally been closed to them for years, and they can interact with it. They can have a point-of-sale system deliver a beer to their seat. These types of systems, ticketing, I can upgrade my parking pass without having to contact anybody. I can change seats, trade in, for example, 4 courtside seats for 1 suite. If I have friends coming in from town, and I can do ticket exchange. So these are the types of, we talked earlier in the opening remarks about all these initiatives that we have going on. Consequently, these questions actually are how we develop our architecture. At the very bottom of the pyramid is the devices that are going to be fed into this. Traditional legacy IT, if somebody wanted to deploy video cameras, they would engage IT. We would do a year-long study on which are the best video cameras and DVR encoders on the market. We'd do a pilot project. We'd begin to roll that out. Today, IT gets tapped on the shoulder and says, hey, I have all these cameras. They need to be on the network. So we have to be able to adapt to these devices. No longer is the day of application-specific networking. The network has to accommodate all these needs. So as we move from the digital transformation to actually implementing IoT, we create 3 very unique challenges. Number 1 is vulnerable. How all of these IT devices are built by industrialists whose idea of reliability and availability means it gets locked in a cabinet and no one ever has to touch it for 20 years. That predates cybersecurity that we know of. Many of these systems were never intended to be secure, so we have to somehow figure out how to address that. Where's it at? Clicker stopped. Do we have a manual? Oh, there we go. So, a quick way to explain this problem, it's a riddle of physical devices and an enigma of protocols, and if you're lucky, you have a hairball of security on it. So, there is no, traffic management, these are devices that are programmed via dip switches, right? There is no software on many of these types of devices that we have to integrate into. So how do we take a completely unsecure device and extract secure, intelligent data out of it is the first challenge we have to address. The second challenge is the variety of devices. We don't get to sole source networks anymore and say, I'm only going to put this vendor's equipment on there. Your network has to adapt to technologies and devices we're not aware of yet. So when we build the infrastructure, the answer is how do we incorporate and extract data from apps, analytics, databases, dumb machines, street lighting, these types of applications. How are we able to pull all this into one cohesive network? And then the third challenge is mixing the old and the new technologies. Many old technologies are not even, a lot of the IoT protocols that we're talking about are not even IP enabled. So what technologies and solutions do we create to put those onto our IP-based network? This is one of my favorite graphics here. We actually have to bridge the old and the new. They have to coexist. I would love to tell you that all of the devices that you've installed need to be completely replaced. That's not feasible. And that should not be a part of your IoT strategy at all. So this is where we get into the networking aspect of it. This is, at Aruba, we call it our connect and protect architecture. We start at the bottom of the stack here. We have a very unsecure device. And then at the top, we need secure, encrypted, trusted data out of it. So how do we handle this? What we're actually working our way up through is a series of product suites. At the very physical layer, what are these devices? Sometimes you get to choose those. Sometimes those devices are brought to you. Then are they IP enabled? So we need some type of protocol adapter to convert whatever protocol, communication SCADA, telematics, whatever we're actually doing needs to be put onto the IP infrastructure. Then using our ClearPass mechanism, we need to authenticate that device. We don't want somebody to buy a pallet of devices to be able to gain access to your network. Then we have to encrypt that. And then create secure communications between all of our nodes. This is an inherent to Aruba's role-based access for our controllers. Then implement those usage policies. As a user, do I have specific access to these devices? As a device, do I have specific access to these servers? So all these protocols, all these types of securities all have to be outlined, mapped together. And then finally, big data engines. What do we, after we've got everything interconnected, we know everything's secure, what type of business anomalies do I get to extract from the infrastructure that I've just built? So this outlines them in a little bit different of a way. If we look at the upper right-hand corner here, these are the types of infrastructure systems you're most familiar with. I personally like the Aruba one. You'll notice that we've modeled all of our outdoor access points after security cameras. One of the largest concerns we get is that a radio with a bunch of antennas on it looks like a radio with a bunch of antennas on it. So we don't particularly like that. The cost to deliver these solutions with coax connectors, external antennas, those are all points of failure. Water, egress, again, we're working on an industry that's intended for devices to work 10, 20-year lifespans without being touched. So the network needs to have equipment on it that's that ruggedized. Most of our outdoor solutions are installed with a single set screw. We've put a lot of engineering into making sure that when you're hanging something on a street intersection, you have to be traffic management certified, high bucket truck, person on the ground, person on the top. It ends up becoming one of the most expensive places to actually put network infrastructure. But we have to utilize them for all these systems to work. So we have invested quite a bit into making sure that that initial cost of deployment is extremely low for you. Many of the devices also are going to be native to Wi-Fi. This is becoming more and more prominent. We have kiosks that are popping up, the buses themselves maybe have a 3G backhaul or Wi-Fi in it, or that's moving around a lot of Wi-Fi clients. So we have to get those onto the network. At the bottom is a lot of our legacy systems. Whether we're going to use broadband over power line, twisted pair, analog RF sensors to plug into. And then, of course, location services now with Bluetooth Low Energy. These are all disparaging types of network technologies that have to be ridden on. And then I talked a little bit about protocol adapters. So a little bit of HP, but a lot of third-party stuff that we actually have to incorporate with. And then at the top left, of course, wired switching gateway products as well. A little bit more on the gateways. We essentially have two types. We have the EL type of edgeline products. These are very specific to get some type of protocol, telematics, and then put that onto the network. As we move into the converged IoT systems, what we're actually doing now is we're putting analytics and telemetry at the edge of your network. The use case for this would think of autonomous vehicles. All your self-driving cars, autonomous vehicles have a massive data center in the back. They have hundreds of sensors on that vehicle that are being fed, correlating with hundreds of sensors within the cloud that are telling it how to interact. That data has to be processed amazingly real time. So any type of high-level analytics that we need processing power at the edge of the network, we have the 1,000, 4,000 systems. And then, of course, that will bridge all of your IoT solutions and get them onto that kind of second hop. Onboarding. This becomes in the Wi-Fi, this becomes extremely important. Traditional Wi-Fi networking says user has a need, so we're going to give them a VLAN, we're going to give them an SSID and provide security. The problem as we try to scale this is we're only limited to so much Wi-Fi spectrum, and the more SSIDs that we pop up, the more efficient the Wi-Fi airtime comes. So when we're, with what I do in stadiums and arenas, we try to break world records of Wi-Fi utilization. So in order to do so, airtime becomes extremely precious. And so most of our record-setting Wi-Fi networks will have one SSID that we're servicing on a 100,000-seat stadium for guest access. Now on the secure side, we can have. So think of the concept of a ticket scanner, where I buy a purpose-built system with a private operating system and a private application. The support of that can sometimes be questionable, but that's a high-dollar system. And I'm hiring a day worker that's not necessarily a full-time employee to operate this, but as I come in, that is the representation of my brand, how that scanner works and how that person interacts with me. If we have onboarding system, we can hire that day worker, make it a requirement that they bring their smartphone with them, give them a card reader, and then that can download the application, securely identify that that is a temporary contractor, and allow them access to that application for the day. So onboarding completely revolutionizes how we bring people on and off of the network. Contractors, very important. If I'm running a network and I just opened a brand new stadium, and the last day before the grand opening there were over 3,000 contractors on site. How does one IT person manage all the cards and access? What you do is you can delegate that to the contractor, the person that's bringing them on and off. They can assign those credentials, pull them. But onboarding, it does involve every form of operating system that we have, the access points, and then we need to create certain levels of policy. Can you as a power user access sensitive information from my device, or does it need to be a corporate domain machine for me to access that sensitive? So you have full power and control from a network administration standpoint to delegate those types of rights and assignment. Again, very proud of Aruba's transformation of the outdoor product lines. What you're seeing here was part of Tour de France. I believe it was in Cambridge, in the UK, in Cambridge, I believe. They asked us, can we take your access point and put it inside one of these ballers because this is a historical area? Absolutely. That becomes a very important part of technology. The greatest technology hubs aren't large towers. They're not. The technology becomes quite pervasive and not in your face. So the fact that we can implement this fiber, we can put a fiber adapter immediately inside the mounting arms so that we can extend connectivity basically anywhere. So location services. There's been a very large movement in location services over the last several years. Aruba, like everybody else, was really invested in the Wi-Fi triangulation protocols. There have been quite a few advancements in the mobile device world that have prevented that functionality from happening. For example, it's really hard to triangulate a user when their phone goes into power save mode. So we end up with location services, and if we want to monetize or increase the productivity, for example, are all my security personnel pulled outside of one door, or are they equally distributed? At events like this, security personnel can sometimes be the most costly personnel, so we need to make sure that's there. So to identify which location services you need, we break it down into 3 simple questions. On the far right is a simple, where is this? I walk in, where is my conference room? Can I navigate to that? We can do that via Wi-Fi, or we can do it with location asset taggings now. Projectors in hospitals, crash carts. These very important tags that we don't have seconds to go chase and look for them. We need to know where they're at real time. That's how we do it. Where Am I is the true wayfinding app. We have 2 flavors, a very generic white label. Works great for when really what you're doing is just locationing. So if you think of your typical airport application, finding amenities, these types works great. But for the most part, we've identified that when you are building these apps, Most of the time from us, you need our location engine because you're doing far greater, grander development within your app than just locationing. So we can bundle that into an SDK for you so that you're free to explore and develop apps. Where we're at today now is when Levi's Stadium had their Super Bowl, you needed ticketing, and you could gain access to that ticketing through the Levi's Stadium app or through the Super Bowl app. So now we're evolving to where we can nest apps within apps and regain that functionality. And then the more emerging one on the far left is where are they? You may have heard HP's moving from Palo Alto to Santa Clara, where Aruba just opened our headquarters. I've been fortunate enough to spend a whole lot of time there this year. I think we have about a couple of thousand Silicon Valley-based Aruba-only employees that rotate in and out of that building. It's 5 stories. We average less than 700 people a day there, but there's over 150 conference rooms. There's no permanent cubicles. It's a modern workplace. So when I show up and I have a meeting, these rooms may or may not be allocated. It's very, very time-consuming to travel all the floors to try to poke your head into an office to find somebody. So we have our campus app. I share my location. When I walk into the building, if my friends have opted in, we can automatically see where each other's at. If I have that app installed, all of our conference rooms also have tablets onto the front. I can either walk by the tablet and slide it and say that it's booked, or if I leave my phone into the room, after 3 minutes, I get an initiation of a Skype for Business meeting that launches up, books that room within Outlook for me, and tells everybody, find a new room. So the true in-building automation, as a remote teleworker, I have the exact same empowerment of walking in, using AirPlay on my phone up to any projection or any TV, and begin my display. I used to give my briefings in boardrooms. Now I actually just walk up to one of the huddle areas and the common areas and give my display at a couch. It's a lot more comfortable, a lot more casual of an environment. And to do that, that actually involves several more components. So Meridian is what HP Aruba calls our Bluetooth Low Energy app-based locationing. Think of this as a geofencing indoor GPS, extending the GPS. We can get a lot more accurate indoors. As we go outdoors, we tend to rely a lot on, we can do some limited geofencing, but the density we need, we just don't have mounting assets to do real high accurate locationing outdoors. We do focus the use case on the indoor and let the GPS aspect handle the outdoor. And when monetization comes up, almost always when we need to monetize the infrastructure, we need to add in some level of locationing insight. What part of the building are people congregating in? As we talked to challenge number 2, all the multitude of devices. Aruba, we're very standardized. Every single one of our customers almost every one of our customers had a competitor's technology in there. And we can't just necessarily ask them, dump all your investments you've had over the last 5 years with that competitor to buy all this new. For example, in a university, they never upgrade all the colleges at one time, all the dorms at one time. There's a continual rollout always of what's the oldest building, what's the oldest technology, let's upgrade that. So there is always going to be some hangover of old systems, new systems, and we've embraced open standards so we can help bridge that old system as you have the same level of management and security on your aging systems, and then bring that on. And that product that we do all that network management with and visual tracking is a product we call Airwave. Data mining, this is an acquisition Aruba made about a year ago in a company called Naira. This is our AI, big machine learning, east-west. One of our biggest use cases comes from University of Washington. They have a very large campus, outdoor campus, as you can imagine. They didn't know where to put outdoor access points. If you can think on a very large campus, you may be a kilometer between buildings. That big, large grassy area has no mounting assets. So for the university to invest in putting power and a pole to service that area is a very costly endeavor. So before they went on the lofty goal of putting absolute Wi-Fi, pervasive Wi-Fi everywhere, we're able to turn up a lot of these analytics engines that we have to see where are students actually walking. When at 9:30 when a class ends, are they actually going from point A to point B? So we end up finding anomalies such as the area around the library needs to be the most densely covered because that ends up becoming a hub where everybody's congregating from. And if we can cover that use case, that may solve about 50% of our business needs. Video surveillance. I have quite a bit of experience in this, and this market tends to go up quite a bit when the economies go down. And the reason is that camera and the wireless it takes to get to it are generally cost savings over either wiring a camera or putting a person there to monitor that security. So the key when we do these, we need to have a lot of capacity. We don't build the system to whatever the need of the video is, and I'll explain that why. We need to build that system with plenty of excess capacity. This is becoming more and more as we've built this pervasive citywide, island-wide infrastructure. Now we have public safety concerns that we have to plug into here. Monitoring toxic waste filters, these types. The first one I worked on in the early 2000s was they buried a whole bunch of waste in a rural area and decided to build a subdevelopment community on top of it. So in order for the community to be built, they had to put all these sensors and detectors around so that if at any time a sensor went off that there was a toxic leak, they can immediately reverse the freeways with all the signs and evacuate the town very quickly. Municipal lighting and traffic control. This is becoming a lot more of an important area. Light pollution, where I live in Arizona, I've been told that we have some of the tallest street lights that you'll find. And the reason is we just need that lighting to be right there. We need it for a very specific time or day. We don't necessarily want the city to be this big, bright beacon of artificial light in the area. We like our desert and we like our sunsets. So this lighting, being able to control that becomes extremely important. It's amazing to me how archaic a lot of these systems are to where they just send timers or they manually pull a lot of these public systems down. So turning these on, putting them on the network can actually save us quite a bit of time and money. Kiosks. This is one that even in the sports and entertainment era, we have to accommodate for. So if I'm building a network for 100,000 people, that's great until we get a Super Bowl. And then they push our security perimeter out about a mile, and they light up ATMs, everything. All of these each Super Bowl is very different. There's new technology, sponsors that they bring in. Essentially the way it works, we get there a month ahead of time and we just start watching where they're putting stuff. There is no communication to us as the network vendor where these things are going to be, what they need to do. Just somebody shows up with 50 ATMs that need to work, and we have to be able to get them on. We're seeing at universities, for example, using kiosks just to drive marketing. The simple concept of putting a photo booth in to collect somebody's email address. You put it in the middle of your campus, people will jump into that photo booth, get 4 of them, and type their email address to have it mailed to them. That helps build income revenues. So we're seeing a lot. Now, with anything that we have to put a credit card into, we need PCI compliance on that infrastructure as well. Unified communications. Aruba's infrastructure is fully Skype for Business compatible. We're one of the largest users for it. If you talk to me on a conference call, that's most likely how I'm talking to you. So once we've built all this capacity into it, we want to leverage this. The mobile data bills are very expensive, especially on large scale if you're looking at the cost for a federal government, for example. So anywhere we have these telemetry devices that have a need for Wi-Fi, we can use Skype for Business, and I use Skype for Business on my mobile phone more than I actually use the call itself. And then monitoring and analytics. After we've got it all, we need to be able to extract if we remember the life cycle, the bottom two quadrants. Do I have productivity, and can I generate revenue and make profitability off of this? So as we close out, a couple of the use cases. These are all apps that you're more than welcome to download. Levi's Stadium is an example of our SDK where we're incorporating with a vendor called VenueNext all of the ticketing, parking, point of sale systems. Levi's is famous for being able to have food delivered to your seat without having to get up. Orlando Airport is more of our generic wayfinding app. And then same with Red Rock Casino. And then the far one on the right is the Natural History Museum, I believe. So you can interact with the displays by using these apps. So 4 very different use cases for wayfinding and different ways of how we can implement that technology for your needs. And then while it is very difficult to do a citywide initiative, it has been done. Our most current use case is Cincinnati Bell with Cincinnati. The monetization was actually paid for by advertising. So be happy to have follow-ups later to explain how this was and how those relationships were built to help monetize that system. Oh. There we go. And then for the security and surveillance, for the Beijing Olympics, we had over 50 square kilometers and 600 access points doing physical security monitoring for that. Yeah. So as I wrap up here, how do we get from your strategic goals down to identifying what your IoT architecture is? Again, we bring all stakeholders together, discuss what those goals are, identify the objectives, and then really try to identify what a business moment's going to be for us. What we use is HPE Point Next Services. We call it an IoT transformation workshop or digital transformation workshop. This is very specific to taking executives and explaining how we move from the traditional paper world into a true mobile digital environment. It takes about 2 days to align this specific to your goals. All right. And in summary, there is no one-size-fits-all IoT architecture. If somebody is trying to tell you that, what they've done is created you a solution for a problem that you need to go find. And technology seeking problems never works out well. So the other thing I wanted to close here with is historically, if you dealt with HP and Aruba, I am from Silicon Valley representative, and I appreciate the opportunity, but we do now have a dedicated Latin America, Caribbean team, so I'm more than happy to connect you with those folks to help give you that local support and local presence. All right, thank you everyone, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Now, we're going to have an opportunity to ask questions when we return from the break. We've arrived at the hour of the official conference photograph. Those persons should be aware. Please move to the front of the stage. Parliamentarians, presenters, and sponsors, if you could stay in the room. And everybody else can go and have a cup of coffee and network in the foyer. Please be back in 20 minutes. Can I ask all parliamentarians, presenters, and sponsors, please move quickly. for the photo, official conference photo.